You know, the search for the fountain of youth, it's as old as time, right? But what if the secret to slowing down aging wasn't some myth, but actually a mix of simple things we can do every day? Well, guess what? A huge new study, fresh out of the journal Nature Aging, has just dropped some of the most exciting clues we've seen in a long time. So let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, we've got to wrap our heads around a really key idea. You don't just have one age. You actually have two. You know how you sometimes meet someone and think, no way are they that age? They just seem so much younger or maybe even older than they are. Turns out there's some real science behind that feeling. So think of it like this. On the one hand, you've got your chronological age. That's just the number on your driver's license, the number of candles on the cake. It's like your car's odometer. It just keeps on ticking up. But then there's your biological age, and that's the one that really matters. It's more like the actual wear and tear on your car's engine. Two people can be the exact same chronological age, but have wildly different biological ages. And here's the kicker. This isn't just some abstract idea anymore. Science has given us some seriously powerful tools to actually measure your biological age. And that brings us to a really groundbreaking new experiment. Let's talk about the Do Health trial. And listen, this was no small-time study. We're talking about a massive, 3-year-long effort designed to answer one question. Can simple daily habits actually turn back our cellular clock? So let's get into the nitty-gritty. This was a super rigorous, randomized, controlled trial. They brought in 777 healthy, active folks. Average age was 75. And the goal was super clear. Could specific, simple things slow down their biological aging over a 3-year period? The whole thing was so well done, it got published in one of the most respected science journals out there. So what were these potentially age-defying interventions they tested? Well, they're things you've definitely heard of. A daily dose of vitamin D, a gram of omega-3s, and a simple exercise routine you can do at home. The real question wasn't just if they were good for you, but could they slow aging at the deepest molecular level? And to find that out, the scientists needed a special kind of clock. So how in the world do you measure something like biological age? Well, this is where we get into the really cool tech at the heart of the study. It sounds like science fiction, but it's very real. It's called an epigenetic clock. So what is an epigenetic clock? Put simply, it's a super advanced test that looks at your DNA. But here's the important part. It's not looking at your actual genes. Instead, it's looking at these tiny little chemical tags that are attached to your DNA. This is called DNA methylation. Think of these tags like little dimmer switches that control your genes. And the pattern of these switches changes as we get older. Okay, let's break it down. Picture your DNA like a giant instruction manual for your body. Now, throughout your life, based on everything from your diet to your stress levels, tiny chemical sticky notes get attached to different pages. What the epigenetic clock does is it scans the whole book, reads the pattern of all those sticky notes, and from that, it can calculate your body's true biological age. Pretty wild, right? And the scientists on this study, they didn't mess around. They used the absolute best of the best, what are called second-generation clocks. Names like PhenoAge and PhenoAge too. And what makes them so special is that they're not just guessing an age. These clocks are actually linked to real-world health outcomes, like your risk for disease and even how long you might live. They are incredibly powerful. All right, so we've got the people, we've got the simple habits they tested, and we've got these incredible high-tech clocks to measure the results. So what happened? What actually moved the needle and slowed down the aging process? Okay, so the results, they were pretty surprising and honestly super clear. When they looked at each thing by itself, neither the vitamin D nor the simple exercise program really made a significant dent in slowing down those epigenetic clocks. But then there was one clear winner that stood out from the pack. Yeah, you see it right there. The one thing that consistently worked on its own was taking a gram of omega-3s every day. This wasn't a fluke. They saw this effect across several of these advanced aging clocks, showing it had a real, measurable impact. So, okay, how much of a difference did it really make? Over the 3 years of the study, the group taking omega-3s actually slowed their biological aging by almost 4 months, compared to what you'd normally expect. It's proof that a simple supplement can have a real impact, deep down at the epigenetic level. But that's not the end of the story. But, and this is a big but, While omega-3 was the solo star of the show, the story gets even more interesting when you look at how these things work together. What they found was this amazing additive effect. For one of the most important aging clocks, PhenoAge, the combination of all three, the vitamin D, the omega-3s, and the exercise, had a bigger protective effect than any single one of them alone. It's like, sure, omega-3 is good on its own, but the real magic happens when you combine it with vitamin D and exercise. It's that teamwork that creates a much bigger shield against aging. Okay, I know what some of you might be thinking. A few months? Over 3 years? Is that really a big deal? Let's put this all into perspective. And look, that's a totally fair question. Even the scientists called the effects modest. But they argue that we need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the effect this could have on everyone. And here's a quote directly from the researchers themselves, and I think it says it all. The point is, if you can make even a small change in how fast we age, but you sustain it over time and across an entire population, the impact on public health could be enormous. You could potentially push back the start of all sorts of age-related diseases for millions and millions of people. This whole concept, it has a name, the geroscience hypothesis. The idea is, instead of playing whack-a-mole with diseases, treating heart disease over here, cancer over there, what if we could go after the one thing that drives them all, the aging process itself? And this study is another strong piece of evidence that simple things like omega-3s and exercise might be a real step in that direction. And really, that leaves us with one last big question. This kind of technology is moving out of the research lab and becoming more and more available. So it's not just a science question anymore. It's a personal one. If you could easily and accurately see your body's true biological age, would you actually want to see that number? And more importantly, what would you do about it?